You don't want to own bonds if you have a mortgage. That's all there is to it. If you have a mortgage, you really don't want to own bonds. Now, don't take this as advice for every single person in the whole wide world, but I'm telling you, man, I'm going to prove to you the way I do it down here in my basement with my little puppy dog. Having bonds and a mortgage are not a good experience from an investment perspective, or at least the ability to build net worth. So we're going to start first and foremost with the assumption. We're going to start with this little bell curve, and we're going to go into it a little bit deeper here in just a second. I've been thinking about this a lot in the last couple of days, verbalizing it with my better half, and then looking at my own situation and saying, how is the best way to build net worth and the most comforting ability to let you sleep at night way? Because you have to take reality and all the spreadsheets, all this, the freaking, all the data gathering in the world doesn't mean crap if you stay awake at night. Think about this. So let's start with the premise. We got a $325,000 home, all right? And I'll add to this as we go forward. $325,000 home, and we're taking a $260,000 note, what's called a mortgage, a mortgage. And I think that's what is 325. Is that because we put 20% down? Now, look, this isn't me. I'm just using this for an example. 325 times by 0.8. Yeah, so we put 20% down so we don't have PMI. So in this case, we're putting 20% down on a 325 house. We have a $260,000 mortgage, all right? This kind of is where I'm thinking about when we downsize from here, just Charlotte and me, when I'm thinking about, 7 years from now, kind of. So this is where I want to go. The question for me is, do I take a mortgage or I just pay the whole thing? Now, I don't have $260,000 to pay the whole thing right now. Hell, 325. Hopefully in 7 years, once I sell this thing, I will, but we shall see. All right. So the premise of a mortgage works like this. You start with low amounts of equity and high amounts of debt. And this is your principal payment. That's your interest payment. In this case, we're starting our first payment in 2019. $1,317 a month is principal and interest, not taxes and insurance, just principal and interest. And what we're doing here is the first payment, $975 is your debt, i.e. your interest. And the first payment, $342 is your principal. All right, so you see it's a 3-to-1 ratio essentially of debt to interest. 3-to-1 roughly of debt to interest. All right, so what happens is every year your debt, your equity, your interest, your principal goes up, and your debt goes down to the point where you get to the latter part of your payment here. We're looking at the beginning of 2039, so 30 years from now. And your payment is $61 of interest and $1,256 of principal. So again, your payment is still $1,317 a month, but essentially you're paying yourself, all right? Because you have hardly any interest payment at all. The irony of it is your interest payment is still 4.5% relative to the outstanding debt that's out. So in this case, the loan value is still $15,000. And that's what you owe. That's your payoff amount, $15,000, and it's costing you about $420 a month, a year in interest. That's about 4.5%. So it's interesting there how the interest rate still pays 4.5% on the outstanding balance, not necessarily on the fair market value, of course. But anyway, that's how it works with a amortization schedule. Is that your equity is way down here, your debt's way up here. As you pay it, your debt shrinks, and your equity builds up until your equity is here and you have no more debt, and then essentially you own the whole thing. Let's look at a different graph, an old-fashioned economics graph here. I'll share with you how this works. Because I think it's, for me, I need to visualize this. I'm looking at my spreadsheet, and I'm a visual guy, man. That's all there is to it. The spreadsheets I like because it helps me crunch numbers, but until I actually write it on my whiteboard, I'm like, ah. So what we're going to do here is we're going to use red. That's your debt. All right, and then we're going to use green. Hopefully this one will show up pretty well. It's not as fat. Yeah, that didn't work. Not really. So let's use this green here. A little bit better. Green. And that is your, that's okay. That's your debt, that's your principal, your equity. All right, so what's happening here is every payment, you're paying more and more debt. It's going down until here is zero. And every payment, you're paying more and more equity until here you hit the middle. And that middle for this loan amount was, I'll tell you here in just a second, right there, October 2024. So in October 2024, remember, $1,317 is our monthly payment. In October 2024, we had $655 no, September 2024, we have 657 in debt and 659 in principal. So this is when it hits the midpoint there, October 2024, which is interesting because that's only 5 years away. Isn't that interesting? So if you don't refinance or anything, or don't take, I guess the second mortgage won't matter in this regard, but if you don't refinance, you're really only 5 years until you hit the midpoint where your principal overcomes how much debt you're paying on that $13.17 a month, which is pretty interesting actually. So in the first 5 years, we got 20. Let's see, 2020, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, first 5 years, you're paying $78,000 in interest the first in 2024, 8308 in 2023, 8637 in 2022, 8952 in 2021, 9253 in 2020. So you're paying, and then I have 4 extra months in this mortgage. So you're paying basically $45,000 of interest in the first 5 years, which is interesting because your total interest payment, when all is said and done, is let's see here. And again, this is a 4.5. Did I say that? Your total interest payment is $214,000. So you're literally paying 25% of your interest in the first 5 years on a 30-year note. So you're paying 5 divided by 30, 16% of the term, you're paying 25% of the interest and 16% of your entire 30-year contract, if that makes sense, which just goes to show you how the interest is front-loaded for sure. I find this pretty interesting actually because again, 2024, you would think it'd be 15 years. It's not 15 years, it's literally 5. And the reason again for that is because you're paying so much interest on the front end. All right. Let's stop there. I'm going to go do a second one on this where I'm going to show you, we're going to go into what happens if you pay an extra payment. I'm also going to show you what happens if you do, what else I got? I got tons of stuff in these spreadsheets, man. It's would make you sick to your stomach to see all this stuff here. We're going to show you another one on a visual where I show you, yeah, here we go. Okay, this will be good. So stay tuned. I got a couple more on this where you shouldn't own bonds you don't own bonds, and I'll get back to why you shouldn't own bonds if you have a mortgage. So hang tight. Thanks now.